Hi, just some thoughts on the crisis comms assignment. Well, the week two task that I know that you've kind of been considering, which was looking at the Edelman Trust Barometer, and picking out some elements of that. The things that I think come to real kind of focus for me around the Trust Barometer is the way people view local spokespeople. So the feeling that and the kind of finding about people seeing leaders that as lying, and how that impacts also views of the media being part of that problem. So we've got to think about how we might look at different avenues to get information out, and certainly how we're trying to kind of start thinking about engaging for preparedness. Look at understanding the impact that situations have, and that how people can get that sense of grievance, because that sense of grievance comes through really strongly in the whole of the report. So we've got to think about when we're dealing with situations or planning for certain situations, how might that make people feel aggrieved? How might that kind of impact negatively on people? And we can then start to look at what that means as we go forward. And I think there was a really interesting finding around collaboration, and people wanting to know and trust people and feeling that connection, to try and prevent the kind of distrust, mistrust situation kind of increasing. And one of the slides that I focused on obviously was government leaders earn legitimate authority when they understand what people like me want and need. And that was replicated a few different times in different slides. So when we start to think about what that means for us, in terms of communication, who's the spokespeople? Have they got a level of credibility? Perhaps they need to be a lower level, a more junior level in an organization, to have a greater connection. They need to think about face to face, on the ground type communication, not just working with the media and dealing with media issues. Because that's obviously part of where people feel a level of mistrust. So you want to consider other avenues, working with influencers on social media, or even thinking about different ways of addressing it. So lots of different aspects that you can think about. And in terms of messaging, it's how the message lands. Is it seen as a collaborative message? Is it seen as a I'm telling you to do things kind of message? And who is delivering it that starts to become really important. And like you say, sometimes when you see on news reports, people at a more junior level in an organization doing it, a piece for an interview, it can be better, it can be more impactful, it can have greater resonance than it can some chief exec. So a few things to think about, and hopefully, like when we start to look at obviously the plan, these are elements that we've got to be factoring into consideration. What do what do we need to think about in terms of who's speaking and how they're speaking and how they connect? And we'll pick this up in the coming weeks as well. So I hope that helps, and I hope we found it useful.